Hello, wild people! Are you an older person in need of a little encouragement to start a grand adventure? Are you afraid a long-distance hike might cause your teeth to fall out, or lose your Metamucil, or even your hearing aids? Well, welcome to AK Wild One, the place where all your fears go to die. Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to AK Wild One. At the age of 62, my wife Flash and I decided we would attempt to hike the Pacific Crest Trail. Beneath the veneer of my glossy semi-confidence lurked a lot of fear. The idea of hiking 2,650 miles seemed daunting, and I figured at 62 my best days were gone, and I would only embarrass myself by trying. I imagined failing after the first week on the trail and then returning home to a chorus of I told you so's. In this episode, I hope to inspire some older hikers to get moving on their grand adventure. I don't know your specific situation, but maybe my story can help inspire you to take a chance on pursuing a more adventurous direction. Before we get started, please make sure that before you take off on your grand adventure, that you've talked this over with your doctor. Your doctor can help alert you to the pros and cons of such a decision based on your medical condition. If your doctor and your family are on board with you attempting a long-distance trek, and you need a little bit of friendly encouragement, then you've come to the right place. First off, if you dream of taking a long-distance hike, try not to push the start date too far into the future. You know, an idea that lies around too long grows moldy, withers, and dies. You'll need to plan ahead, but remember, your life might become more complicated in the years ahead. Sometimes it's just now or never. What motivated me at 62 was that I saw a lot of older people around me getting sick or injured and unable to do the things that they really enjoyed doing. And so I realized my time was limited, and it was either now or never that I was going to do a thru hike. As you get older, the chances increase you won't be physically able to do something like a thru hike. At some point, you just have to seize the moment by the jugular and just go for it. You know, this past summer, I met a hiker on the trail in Oregon who was 72, and he just decided to go for it. His trail name was Way Back. He got that trail name because he said, well, I tend to go way back. He looked like he was 50 and he was full of youthful enthusiasm. I hope he was able to complete the trail. If you fear failure holding you back, consider taking baby steps. If you can financially afford to take 6 months off, if your family affairs are stable and your physical condition acceptable, one of the first steps, of course, is to apply for a permit. You know, the first round of acquiring a PCT permit for 2024 will be on November 14th, 2023, and you'll need to register ahead of time between October 24th and November 3rd, according to the PCTA website. Applying for and receiving your permit would be an important preliminary baby step. Next, even more important, is to find a moment to quietly reflect and consider your why. I honestly think the why is the catalyst that sustains you as a thru hiker, through heat, snowstorms, misery, and destitution. It gives you your purpose for being on the trail. A why should be something very personal. For example, your why should not be that you want to win the admiration and respect of your neighbors. They're a fickle people, and building a why on the expectations of others is basically to build your why on quicksand. For me, my why centered on a desire to feel physically and mentally strong, to experience once again how strong I felt in my youth. Other good whys might be that you want long hours of time for self-reflection to make sense of something that might have happened to you. Or maybe you just want to overcome a serious challenge and enjoy a wilderness adventure. In the early stages, it's important not to obsess about your gear. It's much more important to prepare yourself physically and mentally. Gear is actually the easy part, and you'll find lots of sources that will help you with gear recommendations. I think it's more important to put your emphasis on training, building your trail legs, and your physical and mental stamina. The only exception to this is to find the right trail shoes as quickly as possible. Please see my other training videos in the description if you'd like to learn more. I've seen too many older hiker backpackers substitute gear purchases for training. It gives them the illusion of progress when they buy gear. They are reluctant to do the necessary hard physical training and think that focusing on the gear will kind of make up for it. It doesn't work that way. One thing you can do is to create training milestones and then use gear purchases as rewards when those milestones are met. For example, after you've walked, say, 50 miles, reward yourself by purchasing a backpack. After 100 miles of training, reward yourself by purchasing a sleeping bag. Training is much more important than gear. Your gear won't carry you over a mountain pass, unless of course you're on a giant drone, but your training will help you build the resiliency necessary for a long distance hike. More baby steps. If you're in relatively poor shape, you need to address that issue. In my opinion, you'll need to reach the goal of hiking at least 10 miles a day with a 25-pound pack. But you can start hiking without a pack and just go 1 mile. Try to double the distance every 10 days to 2 weeks. And once you reach 10 miles without a pack, start trying to do 5 miles a day with a 10-pound pack. And gradually work up to carrying a 25-pound pack. If you've never backpacked overnight, start doing a few overnight trips, then 2 to 3 day trips, and at least 1 5-day shakedown trip before you start your long distance hike, if possible. Once you're in fighting shape, I'd like to let you know a little secret. Don't become overwhelmed by the 2,650 miles of the Pacific Crest Trail. If you can hike 10 miles a day with a 25-pound pack, it should only take you a few weeks to reach 15 miles a day, and a few more weeks to be able to hike 20 miles a day. Now here's the secret. The PCT through much of California, with the exception of the first section of the Sierra north of Kennedy Meadows, is basically a series of 4 to 5 day trips. What that means is you can reach a town every 4 to 5 days most of the time on the trail, which can allow you to regroup and recalibrate. Look at the PCT as a succession of 4 to 5 day backpacking trips. This is true, as I said, through most of California, all of Oregon, and all of Washington. That way you don't have to obsess over the 2,650 miles. You just need to focus on the next 50 to 75 to 100 miles. It's kind of like the old story about how do you eat an elephant? You know, 1 bite at a time. Well, the same is true on the PCT. Don't focus on the enormous entirety of the trail. Just look at it as a series of 4 to 5 day trips. And also, please remember, elephant is not a wise choice for backpacking meals. You know, completing the whole trail is not the primary award. If you've made progress on your why, you will have been successful. In 2022, Flash and I hiked 2,005 miles, and we had to skip some smoky stretches in Northern California, Oregon, and the last 30 miles to Canada in Washington. This year, we hiked the remaining miles, but once again, we got turned back at Hart's Pass due to smoke. Honestly, falling short by 30 miles 2 years in a row does not upset me, because I had so many good things happen on the trail that one little disappointment was not going to ruin the experience. Something else that will help sustain you during your training. Everything you do to prepare for a long distance hike in the off-season benefits you, even if you for some reason must cancel your plans. The preparations you make, the training you endured have helped you to become a better person. You know, I think it's a win regardless of whether or not you start the trail. And then try to avoid the naysayers. Some people will try to poke holes in your dreams, and it's best if you just cast aside those voices. You really don't need them. Find that inner, stubborn badass within yourself and resolve to push ahead. Get stubborn. I joke with people that while I'm not fast, I come from a long line of long-suffering people who don't quit easily. After you've been training for a few months and you've got a strong why, you will probably reach a point where you are so determined to go, no force on heaven or earth will stop you. There will probably be one obstacle that gets in the way on the eve of your adventure. For me, just before I left, I was given the opportunity for a very lucrative project that would have done wonders for my business. But while it was tempting, I had reached the point where nothing was going to get in the way of my dream. I turned it down and never looked back. And to this day, I still don't regret the decision. I have yet to meet anyone who has regretted their decision to embark on a grand adventure, even if they did not make it the whole way. They were proud that they took a risk on an adventure. Remember, yes, you could fail and wind up going home. But remember, all it takes really is just one beautiful moment of grace, such as waking up to a beautiful, quiet sunrise on the trail. Or maybe the sound of the river, the sight of a deer, or the yip of a coyote some distance away. These kind of experiences make you thankful you didn't stay home. Your grand adventure is something that no one can ever take away from you. I've always loved the speech by Teddy Roosevelt called "The Man in the Arena." It sums up very eloquently the sentiment I'm trying to express. Even if you, quote, failed during your trek, the fact that you dared separate yourself from the herd makes you an example of success. Roosevelt said, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man, and I might add woman, who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, and who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the very worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his or her place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." So wild people, if you're an older hiker who faced barriers to taking that first step on a grand adventure, please share some advice on what motivated you to move ahead with your plans. I'd enjoy hearing from you. And if you're still procrastinating about committing to a grand adventure, remember, you're not alone. Many people have the itch and never scratch it. I think it's important just to follow the sentiment, perhaps best expressed by John Muir, who said, "The mountains are calling and I must go." So wild people, what do you do when you hear the call of the wild? Well, you answer it, of course. Until we meet again, live wildly, my friends.